So, as the Lynn Haven corruption case heads to trial, and this specifically has to do with two of the defendants, the only two of the defendants who have not yet pled guilty, and that's former Mayor Margo Anderson and developer James Finch. If you ask me when the trial is going to be, there's no firm date set, but my guess would be late August or September. I do not believe that the trial will be delayed after September. I think that September is the latest, but you never know. You really never know in this case. The other defendants have pled guilty, most notably City Attorney Adam Albritton and former City Attorney and former City Manager Michael White. Others as well. It's a crazy case. It is a crazy case. But the last week on Friday, I did a show. It was a long one because I read all 46 pages of the federal judge's order that was just unsealed hours before I read it, that really rebuked the federal prosecutors and investigators in this case. It was unbelievable. The judge called them reckless and haphazard and appeared to be on the line of throwing the entire thing out. It was amazing. So let me make sure everything's working fine here. Okay, everything's working fine. I'll look at the comments here in a second. But now we have WMBB, who's been very interested in this story from even before it started. I believe that WMBB was involved in this. They were after Mayor Margo Anderson for some reason. We can speculate, and we will when the time is right and the mood is proper. WMBB is partners with Neves Media, Neves Publishing, that's Todd Neves, who does the advertising, the political advertising for the establishment, and works closely with political operative and dumpster diver Arthur Cullen, who has fake Facebook accounts and is nasty. Most notably, the one he was caught having was Alex Cantone. The name was Alex Cantone, and he would even talk to himself. Arthur Cullen, Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Straight and Narrow, Mr. Clean Campaign, would have conversations on Facebook with his alter ego, Alex Cantone. Arthur Cullen, rather. Now I'm doing it. Arthur Cullen is now the campaign manager for Griff Griffiths. Griff Griffiths, by the way, just recently did a, do I have it? I might have it. No, I don't. Griff Griffiths recently did a debate with Brian Cloudis. And in the debate, he said, you are who you associate with. You are who you associate with. And then Griff Griffiths, who was running for the State House against Brian Cloudis, Griff Griffiths said, after all, you even have a Lynn Haven City Commissioner by the name of Judy Tinder, who used to be a Democrat but has become a Republican. You even have her endorsing you. And Brian Cloudis, of course, had the best answer ever because Judy Tinder is an outstanding city commissioner. But Griff Griffiths, his campaign manager is Arthur Cullen. You are who you associate you. I just can't even believe some of the things I see around here. But let me stay focused, and let me get to. There are two articles that WMBB has run about the latest unsealing of the order from Judge Walker, and I've gone through one of them, but I'm going to sort of react to the other one with you. I haven't read the longer one. I think it came out on Friday, too. I haven't read it. So we'll read it together, and I'll give you my thoughts. Let me look at your comments real quick. Kim said Brian won the debate. Yeah, he really did. I think everybody knows. I think even Brian Cloudis even Arthur Cullen and Alex Cantone would agree with that. All right, I'm going to pull up these articles now and go through them with you right after this.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777.
All right, let's go to a WMBB article right here. Yeah, we'll do it this way. So this came out, I believe, on Friday. It looks like it came out on Friday. And let's go through this together. Written by Brady Calhoun, who has been covering, close to the story. Let's put it that way. The judge, the federal judge, Mark Walker, by the way, in the Lynn Haven corruption case, repeatedly reprimanded prosecutors in a newly unsealed order. It was unsealed on Friday. And suggested that the case could be dismissed if more issues surfaced. Former Lynn Haven Mayor Margo Anderson and James Finch, the owner of Phoenix Construction, are accused of bribery and fraud over several city projects that happened before and after Hurricane Michael. Anderson and Finch have repeatedly claimed that prosecutors, an FBI agent, and others lied and violated their rights while building the case against them. Judge Mark Walker previously ruled, while some of those issues had merit, none of them rose to the level required to dismiss the case altogether. In this filing, Judge Walker said, despite them being sloppy at times, prosecutors have not violated the law. And then this is a quote from Judge Walker in the ruling. But while the government's conduct may have fallen short of best practices, this court cannot say that the government acted in bad faith, Walker wrote about the prosecutor's effort to produce evidence in the defense. That centers around the prosecution being very late on turning over evidence that the defense was entitled to. And even sometimes it even required the defense to say, what about this? Oh yeah, we have that. It was unbelievable. Judge Walker also determined that FBI agent Lawrence Borghini at times gave false testimony to the grand jury that indicted Finch and Anderson. However, Judge Walker concludes that these were mistakes that did not have an impact on the case and were not deliberate lies to the grand jury. He also called the FBI agent and the prosecutors, quote, reckless, careless, and unprofessional, end quote. Could you imagine being arrested and facing charges by the federal government? And the judge says that that's how the investigators and the prosecutors had comported themselves? This is shocking stuff. Judge Walker also wrote that Greg Wilson, a former prosecutor and apparent business partner with construction magnate and unindicted co-conspirator Derwin White, acted as an agent of the government when he spied on White and Finch. White died in July of 2021 and was never indicted in the case. However, he and Finch were planning a joint defense and met together often. Wilson overheard those conversations and also participated in the conversations with Finch about the case. Wilson then relayed the information he gathered back to the FBI agent. Because Finch was represented by an attorney, this is a violation of Finch's Sixth Amendment rights, Walker wrote. However, this does not warrant throwing the case out entirely. Instead, any evidence obtained in this manner could be thrown out. To date, it's unclear what evidence would be affected. Finally, Judge Walker wrote that prosecutors are, quote, testing this court's patience, end quote, and that the case is approaching a threshold beyond which defendants are so prejudiced by the government's conduct that this court will have no choice but to dismiss the indictment, end quote. Judge Walker also said, is this not startling? Quote, this court has now granted, at least in part, 4 motions to dismiss. The government does not get unlimited bites at the apple, although this court, by separate order, granted without prejudice part of defendant's motion to dismiss. The government must take heed, meaning the prosecutors. If it chooses to pursue and ultimately secures another faulty indictment, dismissal may come with prejudice. The government decided not to pursue count 1 again. They had already failed twice on the conspiracy count, hundreds of paragraphs, and they decided they better not try it anymore. Can you imagine? Indeed, at a certain point, Walker said, the judge, when the government cannot return a facially valid indictment, despite having 3 opportunities to do so, one may begin to suspect that the issue is with the government's case, not its draftsmanship. Also on Friday, a massive motion filed by prosecutors dealing with the same issues that Walker ruled on was also unsealed. And that's interesting on a whole nother level. The judge is expected to rule on a trial date in the case next week. Like I say, I expect it to be late August or sometime in September. Meanwhile, Finch's attorney has said more motions are coming in which they hope they can get even more charges thrown out. Wow. I mean, I'm eager to figure out what those could be. And I don't want to speculate right here. All right. Let me go and show you the news story that came out today that WMBB has put up. And let's go through that one, and I'll give you some thoughts on it. The one I just read you, I had not read yet. The one I'm going to read you, I skimmed before the show. And there was something new and interesting in there. And I'll tell you all about it in just a moment.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, here is the other article that I want to review from WMBB. WMBB has been less than honest in this coverage. In fact, I think WMBB, along with Todd Neves, their partner, Neves Publishing, Neves Media, the establishment campaign dude, along with Arthur Cullen, the political operative and dumpster diver. Well, Neves is a business partner, but he and Cullen work closely together to get the establishment candidates elected and protected, by the way. Elected and protected. But that's another story. Prosecutors reference other investigations in the Lynn Haven filing. So, on the same day on Friday that the judge unsealed the his own 46-page ruling that we just talked about, there was also a 200 and some page brief by the government in which they argued that the judge should not throw out the entire case. And do you know how the federal government is infamous for putting out big news late on a Friday, right? Late on a Friday, hoping that it doesn't get much coverage. Or do you notice how sometimes there are tragic giant events or big stories that the government itself breaks when there's another big story, like a huge story And then all of a sudden the government, provides another big story. Some people might think, those who are maybe cynical or even critical, that maybe the government is trying to dilute the power of the real story by inflating the information with another big story. Well, the prosecutors did that on Friday. They also released a 200-page. It took me an hour and a half to read you 46 pages. They released a 200-page brief on Friday. And this is what they're talking about here, WMBB. Prosecutors reference other investigations in their filing. The 200-page filing, a massive filing from federal prosecutors in the Lynn Haven case, once again hints at other possible investigations. Margo Anderson, the former mayor of Lynn Haven, and James Finch, the owner of Phoenix Construction, are facing fraud and bribery charges in connection to projects that happened before and after Hurricane Michael. Several others, including the former city manager and the former city attorney, have already pleaded guilty in the case. The pages that reference these other investigations are heavily redacted, and it is unclear if any of them are still active, the investigations. However, one footnote on page 71 of the document stands out. Prosecutors wrote about their negotiations with Finch's attorney, Guy Lewis, over the possibility of Finch testifying before the grand jury. Prosecutors wrote that Guy Lewis, the attorney, and Finch were concerned about questions outside the current Lynn Haven investigation. Here is what the government wrote. So take it for what it's worth. This is the reckless, haphazard, what else did Judge Walker say? Unprofessional prosecutors. This is what they wrote in their brief. Quote, and it's being reported, by the way, by equally unprofessional and dishonest WMBB. Quote, it is not clear what defense counsel, this is the prosecutors talking to the judge now. It's not clear what defense counsel were concerned. What else? This is how they were. You talking about unprofessional. This is the prosecutors writing. Look at this. It is not clear what defense counsel were concerned. What else the government might ask about, they wrote. This is the prosecutors. But one thing the government can think of is defendant Finch having somebody give $10,000 to an elected official's brother who would, quote, know what to do with it. Now, that is explosive. And this is what Judge Walker's talking about. What the government was supposed to do in this brief is file a brief. Judge Walker asked for it to be concise, but instead they filed more than 200 pages. And it was only supposed to be concerning the evidentiary hearing, but they throw implications out all the time, just like this. It's very much like what Alex Cantone might do, or what these other fake accounts on Facebook do, or what a Hector Solis or a, who else? I don't know. These people who just throw out these innuendos, right? And say, oh, yeah, but you know what? Maybe they were doing, maybe that's what they were concerned about. This was not in the evidentiary hearing. This was outside the bounds of that brief, but they always fling dirt. But the reason that Judge Walker is so critical of these prosecutors, specifically Stephen Coons, the lead prosecutor, the assistant U.S. attorney, the reason he calls them reckless and haphazard, unprofessional, is because of stuff like this. It's not clear what the counsel, what the Guy Lewis was concerned about. But one thing the government can think of is defendant Finch having so-and-so give $10,000 to an elected official's brother who would, quote, know what to do with it, end quote. Now, I'm not sure if WMBB's got this wrong. I'm not sure if the U.S. attorney just threw something out there. The U.S. attorney's office just threw something out there. But I hope that that is explored in the trial. I hope that that is explored in the trial, and we can find out who the elected official is, if indeed there is an elected official. But something tells me that something's off with that. And I hope that when the trial comes, they get to the bottom of that. So the government, the prosecutors throw out this innuendo. WMBB repeats the innuendo. And this is what I'm talking about with WMBB. You're telling me that out of 216 pages, I think, that they picked that one piece. It almost feels like, if I didn't know any better, it almost feels like WMBB and the prosecutors and the, are all kind of working together. It just feels that way when I see this. The filing does not name the elected official and redacts who Finch allegedly used as the middleman to deliver money. Also, the footnote does not have a time frame for this payment, and no document appears to be attached to the filing about the allegation. Prosecutors also mention separate investigations at least 7 times in the filing. While referencing documents that were not handed over to the defense, they wrote that the documents are not relevant to the defense in this case and concern a separate fraud and corruption investigation or possibly multiple investigations into other municipalities. Here in Bay County, prosecutors redacted any information that might suggest who was being investigated here in Bay County. As News 13 first began reporting in 2019, they were only 2 years behind me. I mean, I would be so embarrassed if I was W. What they should have written is, as News 13 first began reporting 2 years after the Bernie Thompson show. That would have been an accurate description. And multiple times in years since, federal prosecutors have sent subpoenas to several local agencies, including Bay District Schools and who? Panama City Beach city government. Officials with the Panama City and Bay County, inside Panama City Council and the Bay County Commission, have also confirmed that they have talked to investigators and handed over documents when they were questioned. Now, okay, so that's WMBB's story. Now, I'll tell you, the government has fumbled. The prosecution is stuck on this case, and they're embarrassing themselves in front of a federal judge. The investigations that were taking place into Panama City Beach, Panama City, Bay County, Bay District Schools, will they continue? And the candid answer from me is, I don't know. But I'll tell you this, they're no longer scared. Superintendent Bill Husfeld's not afraid anymore, and if he ever was, and he would say, I never was. Mark Sheldon, the mayor in Panama City Beach, certainly was. The former mayor of Panama City Beach, Mike Thomas, certainly was. Former city manager Mario Gispert certainly was. There's a bunch of them who are scared to death. Are they afraid anymore? They're not afraid anymore. So that leads to a big question. Why is it that current Mayor Mark Moneymover Sheldon, with his more than 24 LLCs, who gets $1.5 million a year from the TDC, why is he no longer concerned? Why is City Attorney Amy Whiteout Myers, who handed over the FBI a document that was altered, why is she not concerned at all? Why is Mayor Mike Pay-to-Play Thomas not concerned? Well, they're not. They're not afraid of the investigators. They're not afraid of the Bay County Sheriff's Office. They're and their public trust unit. They're not afraid of the FBI. They should be, by the way. They're not afraid of the U.S. Attorney's Office, at least not now. So I don't know if those other investigations. I know that they are not. There's not nearly the vigor involved. Let's put it that way. But if the government, all aspects of the government, to include the FBI, the Sheriff's Office, Public Trust Unit, the State Attorney's Office, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, none of them have the energy or the desire to go after the ones who can't find $8.7 million in the Bay County Commission. The ones who traded a road for a vote for a height incentive at a Bay County, at a Panama City Beach City Council meeting. Oh, we could go on and on and on and on. But those very big crimes that are easy to prove, they're not interested in those. So maybe when they get done with this one, if they have any credibility left at all in the federal court, then maybe they'll go after the big, easier cases of public corruption around here. But one wonders, what happens if a Mike Thomas or a, Mark Sheldon, what happens if big local established political players, what happens if they got arrested? Do you think they would sing? And could that implicate maybe even the investigators? So I think if we're going to get anywhere in cleaning up public corruption in Bay County, it's going to have to come from outside of Bay County. It's going to have to come from the federal government. And we may have to wait just a little while until things get straightened up in the federal government. But here's what I do know. That doesn't absolve us from doing all we can do to hold local government accountable to the people, to produce public records when they're required to by law, even when they resist and think that they've got some sort of protection from somewhere. We still have to do that because today is a snapshot in time. Today's a snapshot in time. This happened to Erwin Jackson in Tallahassee back in 2012. Erwin Jackson tells us that the FBI and him had evidence that Mayor John Marks at the time had committed extraordinary crimes, and that they wanted to, the FBI even wanted to pursue those charges. But at the time, at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney at the time, I believe her name was Marsh, was law partners with the mayor. The U.S. Attorney, law partners with the mayor. And so they didn't want to take the FBI's case. So there was no case. But now, Erwin Jackson tells me, and us, that John Marks is doing the same kind of stuff in a private capacity. And Marsh is no longer the U.S. Attorney. So protection doesn't always stay. Sometimes protection retires or whatever. And so if we continue to hold local officials accountable in honest, dogged ways, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. Wow. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if the politically connected who have actual privilege were held to the same standard as us ordinary folks? I was going to say that's all I want, but that's not all I want. But that's up there near the top of the list in a free country that actually has the rule of law. That's not a local banana republic where racketeering doesn't extend far and wide with news outlets playing along with it. Oh, man. I didn't expect to get into all this, but I'm a little I'm a little incensed. I know what I'll do. I'll kick it to AFP Florida.
Americans for Prosperity is the largest grassroots organization advancing policies that help people improve their lives. AFP Florida seeks to end corporate welfare, expand energy options, and reform education and healthcare by giving people more choices. Sign up today and volunteer at americansforprosperity.org.
If you appreciate my work, would you consider supporting me? Would you become a patron if you haven't already at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson? It's like giving a tip for as little as $5 a month. It's crowdfunding, and it's the way that shows like this can survive. Crowdfunding, patreon.com, become a patron. It's anonymous, it's easy, and you can quit at any time. Also, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, to include the Unknown Patriot. As always, thank you so much. And to you for being here. And for those of you who actually give a damn, that's who I care about, really, is those of you who give a damn. Those of you willing to run for office and face the smears from Arthur Cullen and his scumbags, who are campaign manager, for example, for Griff Griffiths. Those of you who start your own coverage, like the Beacon of Bay County, they give a damn. And to those of you who support my efforts, those of you who reach out and say, hey, have you heard about this? Have you seen this? It's a very big deal. I'm really grateful for those people who don't just wear their religion on their sleeves, who don't just do things for a press release, big charity give to have as a way of advertising. You ever notice that the wealthy around here, when they give to charity, it's often in the form of a press release? It's called advertising. And you know what? It still helps those charities, though. It still helps those charities. But that's not the entire story, is it? But thank you to those of you who do actually give a damn. And I'll see you soon.